I'm not hearing what you think. I'm hearing how you're able to represent the ideology you talk.
Honestly, I don't know who the fuck to trust. Is he my friend or my foe?
Dr Peterson is a clinical psychologist and a professor at the University of Toronto. He's the author of the best-selling book 12 Rules for Life, An Antidote to Chaos, which is the inspiration for today's video. Okay, this chapter is pretty much about Mr. Krabs and his family.
I like money!
Jordan explains that lobsters live within a dominance hierarchy, and that they can move up and down this hierarchy based on the levels of certain chemicals in their brain, like serotonin. Basically, more serotonin equals a more happy and dominant lobster. Now, when lobsters lose fights, their levels of serotonin decrease, and this affects their emotional regulation, their status, and it makes them somewhat depressed. You don't want to be at the bottom of the hierarchy. That's a horrible place to be. It means that you're probably anxious, depressed, and have no motivation to do anything. And if you're wondering why the f is he talking about lobsters, well, the reason is to demonstrate that this idea of a dominance hierarchy isn't a social construct. It's actually something that's extremely old, approximately 300 million years old. By understanding this in creatures that are far simpler than us, we can then use what we've learned to understand our own actions and behaviors. When we show confidence and we stand up straight with our shoulders back, people tend to treat us differently. More often than not, people will think that you're more competent than you actually are, they'll treat you with more respect, and you'll overall get a more positive experience when you interact with other people. Now, because we're such social creatures, when this happens, the feel-good chemicals in our brain go crazy and we get really happy and excited, and this kind of pushes us up that dominance hierarchy, which is exactly where we want to be headed. Standing up straight with our shoulders back means being courageous and showing bravery even in times of uncertainty. It means even if you think you're going to fail, suffer, or be embarrassed, you need to face that head on. Don't be a sad lobster. Let's say you have a dog, or a cow, or sheep, or pig, or alpaca. Chances are you would love it to death. Now let's say it gets sick. So you take it to the vet, you'd get the right medicine for it, you'd make sure it takes it at the right time. So why don't we care about ourselves this much? Well, one reason why Jordan thinks we don't is because we believe ourselves to be damaged and fragile, and because of this, we tend to have a nihilistic attitude of why bother? Now, the way Jordan thinks that we should combat this is to treat ourselves as if we're someone that we're responsible for helping. And that doesn't just mean that you want people to be nice to you or you want nice things for yourself. If you had a kid, you would want them to live in a bubble of joy and utopia that's completely risk-free, because the truth is that that's just not realistic. Instead, a reasonable person would want their kid to experience failure every once in a while. They'd want them to face challenges and carry some burdens. You'd want this child to follow meaningful pursuits and stop doing things that are destructive to them and start doing things that are actually going to benefit them. And if you want to improve your life, Jordan recommends that these are the kinds of things you have to want for yourself. Jordan believes that you shouldn't hang around people who don't make your life better. Now, he doesn't mean this in the blanket sense that if someone's not directly helping you achieve your goals, that you should just abandon them and not help them. But what he does mean is that friendship is reciprocal. It should benefit both people in some way. You need to stop hanging around people that are just always trying to top your accomplishments or that encourage bad behaviors. If you have mates that offer you cigarettes when you're trying to quit, or friends that encourage this destructive and crippling gambling habit, they're not your friends. You need to hang around people that are proud of you when you do the right thing and are brave enough to tell you off when you're not. Over the last 20 years, Jordan has maintained a clinical practice as a psychologist, and some wisdom that he's gained through his experience is that a lot of people don't get better until they actually want to help themselves. Too often, people enjoy playing the victim, and when friends try to help, they indirectly reinforce this cycle of victimhood. The book tells us that it's very important to figure out whether the person you're trying to help actually wants to help themselves, or whether they're happy in this cycle of victimhood and happy to bring you down with them. There's always someone better than you. If you're Itachi, there's Madara. If you're Madara, there's Hashirama. If you're Hashirama, there's Kaguya. Comparing yourself to others is weird anyway, because even if someone does have money and is famous and all that, you don't know if their kids like them. You don't know if they're lonely or if they have a drug addiction. You never know what's going on behind closed doors, so comparing yourself to others makes no sense. It'll just make you want to cry in the shower. Instead, Jordan recommends that you focus on yourself, and more particularly, you focus on being a better version of yourself than you were yesterday. For example, if you're a monkey and you're trying to lose weight, but you eat too many bananas, instead of eating 4, maybe try to eat 3.5. As long as you make a slight improvement, even if it's just a tiny bit, you're still headed in the right direction. And what you'll find is that momentum will compound your efforts, and as long as you remain consistent, you'll be amazed at how much you can actually improve over a long enough span of time. Jordan laughs at people who think they could never dislike their kids. The truth is, almost everyone can. He also believes that the main goal of parenting should be to make your child as socially desirable as possible. If your kid has a lot of friends, can interact with a variety of people, and is generally well liked, your child's far more likely to be resilient, have better support systems, and be a happier child overall. Your child's also more likely to be further up the dominance hierarchy, which, as we mentioned before, is a good place to be. The main point is that if your kids are doing things that you find annoying, chances are that society will find them annoying as well, and they're going to be far more punishing to your child than what you would be. You can't just let your child do things that you don't like, because the rest of the world simply won't deal with it. If you don't fix the problems with your child and you allow them to continue behaving badly, you risk the chance of that child becoming lonely and isolated. And that's the worst thing you could want for any child. This chapter is about resentment and responsibility. A lot of people are resentful. They might be resentful without even knowing it. And resentful people often push for change. They blame the world and other people for their problems, but what they don't realize is that by doing that, they're shifting the responsibility of their problems to something that's completely outside of their control. It's far more useful to shoulder the responsibility yourself, because then you actually have the power to make a difference in your life. Maybe you feel that it's the world's fault that you don't have a six-pack, and that all those people with good bodies are just drug addicts and juice heads. Now, maybe this is the case, but maybe you need to ask yourself, do you spend too much time on the computer?
Well, to be honest, I actually spend a lot of time on the computer, but it's mainly to make YouTube videos. Anyway, back to the video.
Do you drink too much? Smoke too much? Do you even go to the gym? And if you do, how hard do you work out? Is your diet right? Or what about the environment? Maybe the world is a wicked place and people suck, but ask yourself, do you litter? Do you refill water bottles? Do you continually use plastic bags? Jordan's thoughts are that if you don't take responsibility for your own small individual problems, how exactly do you expect to solve the bigger problems in society? The point of this chapter, as I understand it, is that people need to be more humble. You can't criticize the world and try to change it if you yourself are living a life that's void of all responsibility. The book implores us to stop doing things we know we shouldn't and to take control of our lives. When you've done this to a high enough degree, then maybe you'll be fit to address the complex issues of a global society. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. That was the first part of Jordan Peterson 12 Rules for Life. I will be releasing the second part shortly, so hopefully if you enjoyed this video, you'll like that one as well. Anyway, hopefully you guys can check it out. Cheers.
Honestly, I don't know who the fuck to trust. Is she my friend or my foe? I'm a extra draw. Yeah, she give me that claim as well. I remember back when I was younger, I was happy. Nowadays feel like no one understand me. I'm good at artists, silly, I'm Bob, Bambi.